Hi, and how are you doing today? It's always
Um,
good to see you.
Thank you, thank you. I'm doing well, Keith, doing well.
So I am here with Anna Felix, and of course, my name is Dr. K, and I'm the question guy. And today we're going to talk about money. And so money is a very important topic for many of us, probably most of us, of course. And Anna, this isn't the first thing you've ever done in your life. And something happened between one point in your life and the next in order for you to become the money strategist. And what I'm looking for now, and just for those who are wondering, is I've got to click two buttons on the back end and the other button is not going live. So I
Oh,
may need to reset this,
okay, no worries.
which is not always good. Okay. Which means let me do a couple of things technically.
Okay.
Uh, s- okay, that so we're gonna have some technical hiccups, and I do apologize for everybody who's kind of watching. Got that? And then we are now going live. So please excuse the technical hiccups, and that's going to go on our raw footage. Hello, everybody on LinkedIn. This is the question guy. This is Dr. K, and I'm here with Anna Felix, and we're going to talk about money. So welcome back. And how's everybody doing? So, Anna, what I was saying earlier was that there was a specific point in your life where you were doing something and things were going well. And then a lot of things happened pretty much at one time that kind of had you had to transition and pivot. And then you evolved into the money strategist. Can you give our listeners some insight into that backstory so we could kind of really appreciate why you're so passionate about this topic?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Keith. I always hope that by sharing my story, it helps other people to, to see, how you can take difficult circumstances in your life and turn them into ways to empower others. And that's kind of what my story is about, turning my pain into purpose that today I'm able to help people with. But my family and I had a severe car accident in '05. And the result of that was that my husband and daughter had severe brain injuries. And it was a long path of recovery. I tell people that, they send you home and you've got to figure out, how to get a 13-year-old eighth grader excited about learning again when she has such short memory,
Mm.
and how to deal with those things. And there aren't really any, like, books or specific pathways in how to do that. And so it can be a really difficult thing. And then my husband was dealing with issues, and it was, essentially I took a position that I could work midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning so that during the day I could be available for therapies and doctor's appointments and all of those things. And I had a sick mom at the same time, and I was caring for a mother-in-law that had dementia. And so it was really a lot. I think back to that time and I think you just get into such a mode of survival that you don't even realize all this plates that are spinning and what you're trying to do. But I ultimately, after 5 years of really struggling, and I thought we were putting up a really good fight and that we were winning, but I did lose my husband at the end of 2010. So now I was a widow with, the past 5 years not really focused on finances, but really focused on, we want to do this treatment. Our insurance doesn't cover it. Okay, that's all right. We'll figure out a way. And, at the end of that, you're left with a lot of bills, and um, finances were hitting me really hard. And so I thought, I have got to figure this out. Like, I'm 42, I'm going to be starting over. I need to really get this figured out. And so I went looking for help. I went, to a variety of financial advisors, and Keith, I just didn't get the warm and fuzzies. Like, I didn't really get the feeling like that they were too really concerned about me. I mean, obviously I didn't have much of a portfolio. And so that's always the thing, like, do I have enough money to even work with someone? But I just really wanted to know what was the best thing for me to do moving forward. And they didn't really want to answer my questions. And when I asked, what I know were probably basic questions, but I didn't know some of these things. And I just wanted someone to, you know, maybe that book, like, Finances for Dummies or whatever, just make it something that would be digestible for me. And I kept getting, well, you don't need to understand this, or, that's not something I do for my clients. Like, I don't really necessarily explain what we're doing. I thought, well, that's
Is
really,
were those the types of answers that you were getting? Was that,
yeah,
people were setting up this clear boundary between the professional and the client?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like, almost like, you're not capable of understanding what it is that I do, type of thing, which,
Mm.
I thought was pretty condescending. But the last guy I met with, he was definitely, the straw that broke the camel's back. He said, Anna, if you want to work with me, that's fine. I don't have time really to answer your questions today. And really, at the end of the day, you just need to find a rich guy and you'll be fine. Marry him
Is
and you'll be good.
that was literally what was said to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. That was
Wow.
really what was said. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And I was, I had such a variety of
Did you
feelings
report
going
this
on.
guy? I mean, that sounds so unprofessional. And
Yeah.
even outside of
Yeah.
like professional code of conduct.
Yeah, it was rude. It was very, the old boys club, it exists today in the financial world, and I'm sure, in other industries as well. But I really, today I look back on that and think that was really a gift, because in that moment I was just like, this is beyond not okay. Like, this is crazy. And so, walking back to my car, the idea occurred to me that maybe I could become the person I was looking for, because clearly I wasn't finding them. And I thought, I really feel like if I got good information, I could be consultative and I could help people understand and not make them feel stupid for not knowing this stuff. I mean, I talk to people today that have MBAs, have done finance at the university level, and they have no clue what to do with their personal finances. So
Mm.
that is not indicative of how smart or not smart you are. It's just, these are not conversations that we have, and this type of information is not frequently available. And so, it's not, it's in no way, indicative of the fact that, you weren't smart enough to figure this out. I mean, it's true. There's plenty of books out there. I mean, we have like no lack of information, right, anymore. But, it was never something that I had a ton of interest in. And so, I had never looked into it. I mean, today I tell women that was not smart. You don't want to follow in those footsteps. You want to be empowered. You want to understand this stuff. This is really important. But finding myself in that place and realizing that I had found a need, and could I somehow, help other people to fill that need, is definitely what was the start of me eventually getting into, financial services. And then, in time, and having been in financial services for a little bit, getting the licensing done and the mentorship and all of those things, I realized that for a lot, and I have to say, things are changing, things are always getting better in this industry, but there is still that sector of people that are still very much, this is what we've done for the last 30 years, this is what we're going to continue to do, we don't answer questions, we don't have time for that, show me the money and move on. And so, I'm super blessed to be partnered with a company that is very different from that, and we are very much about, empowering people, helping them understand where are they. I mean, life has happened to a lot of us, we've had a lot of difficulties, and, for a lot of people, they're starting over, or they're just now realizing that they need to do something. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, every day that you don't do something is worse than just get started. I mean, sometimes people will ask, well, how soon should I start doing something? And I say,
Today.
well, the ideal day was yesterday. The next best day is today.
Today, right.
So, so that's that is how I, continue to evolve in this industry. And when I finally found a company that really, they were aligned with my values, and that was really putting people first, making them feel good about what they were doing, helping them understand. I always tell people there's never a dumb question. And that is that's really the platform that we work from.
Well, that's good. And so you, like you said, going from a point of pain that helped you transition into what you are now passionate about. And I know some people, I've talked with people who really connect with those two words, with knowing that pain, knowing the frustration, knowing the angst of hitting that wall and having your life just turn upside down, and then using that as the facilitator, the motivator that drives you to become, like you said, that person that you were looking for.
Mhm.
And maybe that's one of the things that life is really all about, is to become that person that we think we're looking for on the outside. But you also mentioned something really important, and that's people don't generally talk about personal finances unless you've got a lot of it, and then you could probably like talk all day about it. But most of us are working class, and we want to, we value every dollar that we earn, and so we want to make sure that it's going to good use. But at the same time, that conversation may be difficult. So are there fears and frustrations associated with having, heart to heart conversations with people about their money? Can you identify some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, especially when someone's going to meet with some sort of, a financial planner of sorts. I call myself a smart money strategist, but,
And I love that.
yeah. Well, it's all about being smart with your money, and then you strategize it. So it seemed like an obvious fit. But I think that the initial thing that people come with is, I don't have enough, or, I'm embarrassed that I'm this age and this is all I have, or that I'm this age and I haven't even started. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. The problem with that, though, is that you can continue to be in that denial for year after year, and you just keep perpetuating your situation. So at some point, it's important to just say, what, I'm going to start now. It is what it is, whatever's happened. And let me go forward and do the best that I can moving forward, based on, like I said, I was essentially starting over at age 42. So it's like, okay, it's a clean slate. I'm starting over. And it is what it is. I can't go back and change those things. But what I could do was definitely move forward in the best way possible. So, I always try to allay people's fears that, there's no judgment here. It's totally understandable. Some people have gone through incredibly different things, even way worse than what I've experienced. And so there's no judgment. Like, we're just starting where we are. We're doing the best that we can. And, that's the important thing. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. Other things, sometimes couples haven't always had a good money story together, or maybe they come into the relationship with a difficult money story. And what I mean by that is, a lot of lack, fear around money. And those things can really affect your ability to earn money, your ability to be good with it. And so sometimes couples will get together, and one is, always the spender, one is the saver. That creates a lot of conflicts, because you have, you know, you're on two different paths. One is always thinking about the next thing that they can buy, and the other one is, we need to be saving. And so I think that another important thing in terms of like couples is, the communication. So, really figuring out what are our goals together and how can we reach them together? Because when you do that, you're just so much more successful in anything that you're going to try to accomplish. And so I think a lot of people come with that, and certainly different ethnic groups come with that whole idea of like, we just don't talk about money. Like, that's just not something that we even talk about. And so, bringing down those barriers, and like, we can't achieve or reach any goals that we don't talk about. Like, it's impossible to do that. And so, just helping them see, by doing this, by talking about what could happen, what if something happens to one of the the breadwinner,
Mm.
if the family, only the husband is working or only the wife is working, what happens if one of those can no longer work, or they get sick, or they pass away? These are not fun conversations necessarily, but on the other side of them is such a sense of peace that, wow, we have, we've done this. And if something happens, my family is going to be okay. And I think people get the sense of, I was just speaking to an estate planning attorney that I work with a lot. And she said, it's so hard to get people to come to the office and do their trusts and their wills, because they think that they're going to die as soon as they do it. Like, somehow,
Die the
that means,
next day.
yeah, they're going to die now. And that's definitely not the case. But the thing is, if that worst case scenario did happen, then everything will be good and everything will be in place. So I think that there's certain misnomers about these things that we have to get past. And, that fear of, if I do this now, then, if I have to talk about my lack of money, if I have to, disclose. And it's so funny to me, because sometimes people will, not disclose, certain monies that they have in certain accounts. And then I'm working with them, and, a year later, then they're like, I have this other account over here that, I'd like to do something with. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I mean, we can only work with what we know, right? So, so I think that sometimes there's that level of secrecy and, not wanting to disclose all those things. And, that's totally fine. Just be aware that we can't make sure that those funds are safe or put them in the best places if we don't know about them. So I think those are some of the more popular fears.
So let's flip the coin then. So we've talked about the fears. Let's talk about what we should do right now today. If you were to say, if somebody were to come up to say, Anna, I need help today, I want to do something positive, would you have like 3 things that they should do today, right now, to kind of turn their finances around or use it smartly? Because I want to use
Yeah.
your words, smart
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, of course. Well, and it depends. Like, are they in debt? If they're in debt, then that is, and I mean, like, you have a lot of debt outside of like cars and homes. And a lot of people find themselves in that particular pace right now just because of the pandemic. Maybe, they weren't working as much because of all those things. So the first thing I would say is know your numbers. So what is coming in every month? What is going out? What are your expenses?
I
Now,
like that. Know your numbers, huh?
yeah. So, and that seems like such a basic thing, but I can't tell you how many times I meet with people and I ask that question, what's coming in, what's going out? Because what we have to work with after that is what we call discretionary money, right? Like, if you have surplus after that, now we can do some really cool, fun things with that. And so many times people don't know. So that would be the first thing. Many times too, there's like hidden expenses that people are not aware of. So this was an extreme case, but I met with a woman a few months ago that had almost $500 of money coming out of her account every month to services and products that she either wasn't utilizing or didn't realize was coming out of her account. So, those things like,
Were they, is it a big chunk or like spread
no,
out?
like little pieces,
Yeah, yeah,
29.99
yeah.
here, 79.99 here, like, get your wardrobe piece here that gets sent, and all these little clubs and things that you, and like I say, most people are right at, $100, $200 a month, but she was an extreme, case of forget that you've joined this thing or that thing. And so when we started to look at what her numbers were and to come up with that, she was like, wait a minute, what am I paying 89.99 for over here? And what is this over here? So we found a huge chunk of money that she's now funding her retirement with, because she had
At
money coming
500?
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you gotta find those little hidden things that can be, coming out. The other thing is, if you are already saved, like, you should always have an emergency fund as well. So
Is that number
that would be
two? Know your numbers was
have,
one.
yeah,
Have an
have an
emergency.
emergency fund, because, and preferably 6 to 8 months of your income an emergency fund.
Is that liquid?
Yeah.
Like liquid? Okay.
And it's okay to, start with two. I mean, you got to start somewhere. So if you don't have an emergency fund, that's fine. Just, funnel as much as you can in there until you've reached that 6 to 8 month mark. Now, that's what I would recommend for people that are like employed W-2 employees. If you're self-employed, you might want to have a little bit more than that, or if both spouses are self-employed, then you might want to have a little bit more of that in your emergency fund, just because, sometimes when you're self-employed, you have great months and then you have not so great months, and you don't want to be stressing all the time about, how are we going to make this bill or how are we going to make that bill. And so that emergency fund is really important. And then probably just right in that same, maybe two-part B is, get a hold of the debt, figure out what's going on, what you actually owe. Like, I think sometimes that's another thing kind of related to know your numbers, but people feel like, I don't really even want to know what that number is, but you really need to know that. Like, you really need to dial that in and figure out what that is, and then figure out, can you be strategic with, where you have it? Are there credit cards out there that will give you better, better rates than what you currently have? Like, really get a handle on that, and then figure out what's going to be the best way to pay that down. I am also not necessarily of the opinion that you can't save for the future and pay down debt at the same time. There are some that say that, you can't start saving until you have your debt all paid off. And again, going back to, you gotta start saving, the sooner the better. And so my recommendation is, to get a handle of that and see, how you can do both at the same time. So again, every situation is a little bit different. If you have really, really high percentages that you're paying, then, you might want to, for a few months, just really tackle those. But if you're paying somewhere between, 12%, 8%, on your debt, then you should be able to simultaneously also be saving, because you never know, right? You might need to have that savings as well. So it's good to do those things simultaneously.
I appreciate that. Those are good insights for somebody who would say, what do I need to do today, right now? And so I know you gave me a target. So we need to do a stop at 7 o'clock on my time, but who's your target? Who are you trying to reach out to? Now, I know your profile on LinkedIn says that um, when you empower women, you empower everybody, or something like that. So
Yep.
are you focused on just providing these insights and these strategies to women, or who's your target?
So yeah, I would say that my target is women, women in transition. So those that are widowed, that, are going through a divorce. That's like one small niche of what I do. What ends up happening though, Keith, is because my business is referral based, I will help a woman, and then she'll say, well, and if I'm working with her and she's married, then the spouse is immediately involved, because I don't work with just one member, right? So immediately the spouse is going to become my client. But many times then it's like, my brother, my neighbor, my business partner, they need to know about this. And so it's not that I don't have men as clients, they're just not, they don't usually get the initial message. Like, my message really resonates with women, because they can see themselves in my situation and say, man, if that happened to me tomorrow, I wouldn't be prepared.
Yeah.
So I need to get prepared. So I think my initial message will be captivating to women, and then, men come to my practice via someone that they get referred to. But I love working with entrepreneurs, people that are doing, really well in business, but maybe they just they don't know what the best thing to do is with their money. And I hear that a lot. Like, I'm not excited about a 401k. I'm not, I'm not loving the market, and I know I need to grow my money, but I don't know the best way to do it. And so those are the people that I can really help. Generally somewhere from 35 to 55. Not that, I can't work with someone that's older than that. It's just that the strategies that we use are a little bit different because we have less time. Um, and then really anyone that is interested in paying less taxes. Now I know that seems like really like, who wouldn't that be? But people just haven't been taught that there are ways to mitigate how much taxation you're going to have on your money in the future. And it's a conversation that not very many people are having, and it's so important.
Well, that conversation alone should just drive people to you. I mean, if you're listening on LinkedIn or when this gets on YouTube or Spotify, man, contact Anna Felix and she's going to help you out.
Yeah, because if we keep doing what we're doing, it's not working. FYI, if you haven't realized that, like, I meet with people all the time that when we do the math, they're going to run out of money in 12 years in retirement because they're just doing the normal strategies out there. We've got to be mitigating taxation. We've got to be figuring out, how can we grow our money without Uncle Sam taking out, large portions of it. So there's ways to do that. And, those are some of my specialties, is figuring out, for each individual person. There's actually a point in time when you can have too much in your 401k and it's working negatively for you. So we figure out what those things are and what's the best combination. Again, there's that strategy piece. And then we can, figure out individually what's best for them.
Well, again, just one more question and then we will conclude our conversation. For one, I do want to thank you so much and I'm going to thank you again. But my last question is, how do people find you? Other
Yeah.
than LinkedIn, where are you?
So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably my favorite social media location. So I'm there, very active. But you can, people can reach out to me by email. And that's just Anna, ANNA, at Mod Financial, MOD, and then financial.com. And for those of you that prefer the phone, my phone number is 209-613-9445.
So you do easily welcome phone calls.
I do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because that's even not
Yeah.
what people are doing anymore. And that's okay.
Well, I'm pretty old school when it comes to that, but, obviously people really like to text, and that's fine too. But, just an old fashioned phone call, you get to hear that voice. You kind of, it just instantly creates that
That
connection and
connection.
that
Yeah.
relationship. Because I think, at the end of the day, people need to feel, that you care, and they get that more from your voice than from a text. So, for those that prefer that, I'm certainly open to that.
And thank you so much for your time. And know that the audience, both on LinkedIn or on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and then of course on my podcast platforms, they're going to get all that information. So hopefully we'll have more clients for you soon.
Perfect.
And thank you so much for this
Well,
conversation. If you could
thank
hold
you,
on,
Keith.
if you could hold on for just 1 minute, I'm going to stop the live stream. We could just have a real quick debrief.
Sure.
Thank you so much.